Hey y'all, welcome back to Right at the Wire. Well, today we're going to take a look at the Golden Hour Pick 4 sequence that involves the last two races at Golden Gate and Santa Anita. And a very popular wager out in the West, and want to do something for our West Coast subscribers. And so we're going to break it down, and hopefully we can come up with a winning ticket. So let's take a look. First leg of the Golden Hour is the seventh race at Golden Gate Fields, and I would just advise to check and make sure that the races are in the correct order. I believe it alternates between Golden Gate and Santa Anita, so the first one starting at Golden Gate. But I base that upon the post times, and it looks like they're in sync together, scheduling that. But just to be on the safe side, I'd make sure you check that. This is a starter allowance for 3-year-olds only. It's run on the turf at a mile, pretty standard conventional mile turf course. So there's no hidden impediments, no biases one way or the other. Nice fair track. Number one is Chuckanut Bay. It's trained by Jack Steiner, one of the leading trainers at Golden Gate, and he's got his A rider on. They click at 37%. So right off the bat, I think there's some good expectations here. This one is coming third off the layoff and going on turf for the first time. The dam is old for the turf. None of her have won on it. And the sire is 19% with turf roots, but not so great with first-time turfers. So there is some turf pedigree there. Carson City was a good turf sire, so I think he'll be okay on the grass. The big concern I have with this one is he's a chalk burner. He's had his last three efforts. He was when he was the favorite, didn't cash, and so that makes me a little reticent to be excited about this one, particularly when he's doing something for the first time, which is turf. Roots, he's had mixed results distance-wise, so it looks like he'll be okay on it. And you do see a progression where he's improving steadily, and did get his near his career high buyer for his debut at 3. So that's good to see. It was a sprint, and you do see some steady improvement. So there's some things to like here. Based upon the connections, I think maybe you want to include this one, but I would say under is more likely. Druidic is kind of had a big regression off of that career high buyer, which looks awful sexy at 74. That would definitely win this race. It was on synthetic and not the turf. This one has run on turf before. Wasn't so great, but we'll just assume this one's grown into himself a little bit more and will run better. You just don't like to see that bounce. That's really the issue more than anything else. So I kind of want to wait one before I get excited. The other thing you have to look at is this one has a tendency to be difficult to load and can be very rank. And those are two things you don't want to see. And you see a lot in the notes about bothered at the start, bumped, steadied. So this one's a handful. And that makes it a little, again, I'd be a little hesitant to use this one. 15 to 1's a pretty good price. You want to roll the dice. I mean, go ahead. But I think it's more than likely this one won't factor. Lord of Light, trained by Steve Sherman. That's a hot barn right now. And since the turf, there's a pretty good angle. This one has run on turf before, and with a career high buyer, 2 back in class in the starter allowance, so you have to like that. The thing I didn't that makes me a little hesitant with this one is you do see some competitive efforts where this one has been in the money steadily, but he's running to the class he's in, meaning he's not running at a higher class than he's running at. He seems to go with the flow, if you will. And that's not a sign of a horse who's improving a whole lot. And so I would love to see him move forward. Always want to see that with 3-year-olds. So that makes me a little hesitate to get this one involved. If anything, I'd probably think he'd be under just by his record. But I don't think he's a solid win candidate, even though it is a hot barn. As your star, I think, will be the speed in this race. That last race was very impressive. He got out to the lead and looked like he had tons of run left. Really impressive at the maiden 20 level. Now, this is first time against winners, but you're getting a horse coming off their career high, and granted, it was significantly higher than previous efforts, but maybe this one's just getting it. I'm not overly certain. It was just too impressive a race not to get excited by. This one has run on turf before, and we'll chalk that up to a little inexperience, and perhaps maiden special weight was a little high class-wise. It seems to have settled better at the maiden claiming levels, but I just thought this one, there isn't a whole lot of early speed in this race, and I expect this one to be on the engine with the opportunity to steal, so I would give this one a shot. Trinidad is another one that will probably want to be on the pace. You do see, though, that this one likes to give it up on the back end, and that's one you can't get terribly excited about. You do see 3 back, a pretty good effort on synthetic in the option 50, which gives you a little bit of hope. But the main thing is just this one really just against winners in particular seems to just readily give up the leads, not showing a whole lot of heart. And turf maybe wakes this one up a little bit, but I'm not going to wait to find out. I'll pass. Charbonneau is trained by Andy Mathis, who has 2 in this race, and good turf trainer. But this one is second turf, and what do we have for angles? We had second turf and second off the claim. Now combined, there isn't an angle for it, but individually, they're both pretty good spots for Andy Mathis. So in that respect, I would expect this one to run a pretty good race. You do see the last effort was in a state-bred ungraded stakes and ran pretty well, got a career high buyer. So obviously the switch to turf was the right move. I think it's logical to expect perhaps a move forward here. So I think this one is maybe one you want to think about as a win candidate. Definitely improving. Fly Wicked Eagle is really the issue I have with this one more than anything else is this one is a first route and a first turf. So you have 2 firsts at the same time. The trainer, Ed Mosier, is 1 for 8 in that scenario. And, you see some turf in the pedigree with mizzen mast on the top end. But it just, really more than anything else, that's kind of what bothers me. I don't like to get involved with horses who are doing too many things for the first time. So you do see a little bit of speed here. I would expect they'll probably send this one, and perhaps can hang on. But I think I want to wait one to see how he does on turf. That's just my opinion. Number 8 is Incredible Shot, really logical. Isidro Tamayo is a hot trainer right now, and this is a really good spot for him with a 31-60 layoff. You see the first turf effort resulted in a win in class here, and a career high buyer, and won at first asking at 6 furlongs on the synthetic, and that was a key race. So a lot of good things to like here. I think this one's a really logical win candidate and a must-use. The second leg of the Golden Hour is the 8th race at Santa Anita, and it's an optional claimer for $16,000, and for 4-year-olds and up, and it's run on the dirt at 6 furlongs. Number 1 is Chasing Fame, and this one prior to the last race was on a nice little winning streak, had 3 straight. Is third off the layoff, and that for Manuel Ortiz is 26%, 52% in the money. So it's a really good angle. The last race, despite the fact that the win streak was snapped, still kept on well at the 6 furlongs level at Turf Paradise. This is a little bit of a jump in class to a degree, even though the claiming price is a little lower, just given the migration from Turf Paradise to Santa Anita. But I think this one's a pretty good class fit, and you can't deny that this one's in really good form, so I think you have to use. Particularly at 5-1, you're getting a pretty good price as well. Oh, and the other thing I want to mention is you got Vergara, who's the regular rider who made the trip over to Santa Anita. That has to be a good sign. Number 2 is Gold Crusher, also trained by Manuel Ortiz. And this one just is running a little lower class levels than Chasing Fame over at Turf Paradise, and has done okay. It is going to be an early speed type in this race, I would think. But you do see that this one does tend to give it up a little bit and towards the end of the race, and I think there's a little bit of a class challenge here too. So you can't get too excited about this one's chances. It's first with the trainer is a pretty good spot for Manuel Ortiz here, but I think this one's maybe a little bit up against it, so I'm going to look elsewhere. Number 3 is Established. Like Gold Crusher, this one also wants to be on the engine, and there should be a pretty good duel for the pace in this race. This one is coming off a nice win and at the 12.5 level, and it's a little bit of a class hike, but this one has the back class to indicate that it's not going to be a problem. Likes the front end, and I think it should be able to get to the lead, and more importantly, I think we'll be able to hang on late if there is a pace duel. Has a better late pace number than any of the others on the time form. So I like this one. I think you should definitely use. Tim Yakteen has a good percentage, 22% with a 231 ROI. It's first off the claim. So I think this one's coming into good form and is a logical use as a win candidate. Fast Per Se should be another one who wants to be on the engine. You see, this one is coming from Golden Gate and has been running on the synthetic, which immediately raises an eyebrow for me because I love the all-weather to dirt angle, as many of you know. And so this one's, I usually love a horse who's moving basically at the same distance. It's a little bit of a class hike, not terribly much, but I think this one can handle it. You see, has run at the option 50 level in the past, so that's not going to bother me. Steve Knapp is 27% and 87% in the money, second off the layoff with all-weather to dirt. Bravo, right? Great angle, no reason not to include. I think you have to use this one. 5 to 1's a pretty good price for it, too. Number 5 is Whoa Buddy, trained by Salvador Naranjo. Don't know a whole lot about him. More than anything else, I think you have to look and just see this one looks a bit outclassed. Has been running at the 62.5, 5,000 level and has done okay, alternating from quarter horse to one turn. But I don't see anything to get me really excited about this one, and I would pass. My Man Bags is a horse that I kind of like. Mark Latz, the trainer, and you got Juan Hernandez aboard, so great connections. And this one is another one that loves the lead and should be dueling with Established for it, I think. In this scenario, Mark Latz is 23% and 62% of the money with a $4.91 ROI. That's for third off the layoff. And the interesting thing about this last race, running against Moose Mitchell, who was almost a runaway winner, if you consider that My Man Bag stumbled at the start and still was able to hustle up and duel pretty well, fading a little bit late. The thing I noticed in the race, and if you go back and watch it, it's kind of interesting, it looked like they eased this horse up pretty quick when it was evident he wasn't going to win. And so I think there was more than the tank there than what we saw. So if you look at that, the last couple prior to that, this one would be a really good class fit, and I think you definitely want to use. I think this one's going to rebound. JT's Watch has been this Jeff Bondy. You look at that 3 for 9, 33%. It looks like the barn's hot, but if you go back and look at the races he's winning, they're all first-time starters and maidens. So it looks like he's got some good new stock, good for him. But it doesn't necessarily mean the barn is really hot. He just happens to have some good maidens, so you can, you don't have to upgrade this one necessarily. If you look at the last race, it was at a mile, so the route to sprint cutback is always a good thing. But this one just ran so poorly last time. For coming off the bench, you do have to wonder about it a little bit. And it's a 5-year-old, so you don't necessarily expect that big bump back. So I just have some hesitation. This one has some decent back class. It's been mostly at the root level, so I'm just kind of wondering if he's trying to shake this one up a little bit by moving back to a sprint. So I think it's more of a training maneuver more than anything else, and I'm going to pass. Third leg of the Golden Hour, pick 4, is the 8th at Golden Gate Fields, and it's a 62,500 or 6250 claimer for 3-year-olds and up fillies and mares on the synthetic at 5.5 furlongs. And we see Righteously is number 1, and has been at the 10,000 level for the last few without a lot of good results, and form seems to be declining precipitously. You see from the debut at 60 has been dropping with each race, so that can't be a good sign. Obviously, the class drop is going to help a little bit, and this is a new trainer. You do see the trainer is 39% first time with the team, so that's a positive angle. He's 27%, 53% in the money in the spot. So this one has a positive record at Golden Gate. So there's some good things to there's some things to like here, but you do have to wonder about that form being dropping off as much as it has. And there's really only been 3 weeks this trainer has had the new horse, so I'm a little reticent to use for that reason. But I could see, I wouldn't talk you out if you want to try to use, but I think that'd be a pretty big turnaround awful quick. Lady in a Hurry is number 2 and it's trained by Isidro Tamayo, and again that's a hot barn. This one is he has claimed this one back that from Simon Hobson. So they always like to see that when they claim him back, and he got it at a discount too because he was running this one at the 16 and 20,000 level, and it was claimed from him for 16. He claimed it back for 8, so we got a nice little discount there. And you see the last 3. He's done pretty well at the 62.5 level. Looks like a good move. The buyers are progressing steadily, whether it be 2 turns or 1. The only thing you got to worry about is that's 3 straight second place finishes. I think that's why he switched the jockeys, upgraded a little bit to Anton Negri. But this is a hot barn. This is a horse in pretty good form. I think it's logical to use. Get 'em Tiger is one trade by Jack Steiner, another nice trainer. He's 21% and 79% in the money with a $1.06 ROI with a 50% claim drop first off the claim. And so you never like to see a horse dropped off the claim first time off the claim, but it is a positive angle, and obviously Jack Steiner's a claiming trainer, so I can discount that a little bit. The ROI bothers me. It usually means that he only wins when he's got super chalk. If you look at this one, you've got just sort of at the 12.5 level, has been just sort of running around the track without a lot of fanfare, been kind of competitive. And the last one was a key race, so you do have that. Again, there hasn't been a lot of time to have this one to work with, to reverse things. I don't think it would require a whole lot of tweaking to get this one back on the winning track, and certainly the class drop helps. At 6-1 is a decent price. Wouldn't talk you out of using Get 'em Tiger. Reino de Reyes, that last race was a clunker, even though it was at the starter allowance level. You see prior to that, most of the form is quarter horse most recently, and the last effort at Fresno was nothing to write home about at 69 lengths back. It was a key race, but I don't see a lot here. If you go all the way back to when this one was running consistently at Golden Gate, the form was marginal at best, and I don't think buyer-wise this one really stacks up, so I'm going to pass. O'Neill's Legacy, another one from Jack Steiner, and Roman in the Irons is a hot jockey right now. They click at 31%, so there's definitely some expectations. You do have a 7-day wheelback. That's one thing you do have to think about. He has done it before. Jack Steiner's 1 for 4 in that angle, but wheeling horses back that quick is never something I'm real excited about. He's 0 for 3 with the tag drop and the surface switch, so that's a couple of things that aren't necessarily great angles. This one does definitely have some back class. You see it wasn't too long ago. This one was at the allowance N1X level, and I mean it looks to it's just kind of a funky wheelback, but I think this one probably I think he's turning this one around for a reason, back so quick, so I think you got to use. Excuse me. Guardy's World It's trained by Michael Lanzini, and I think this one's in sustained good form. You see, has been for the last five, his first or second at the 62.5 and 4 level, which is roughly about the same. So, I mean, I think this one's a class fit, has been running well, and no reason not to include for those reasons. Just as a good class fit. Number 7 is Shouted Out, and trained by Kelly Bynum. This one is dropping 50% in class as well, and you can kind of see why over the last three since the layoff and the debut at 5. Really, at Turf Paradise didn't run very well, and they switched to a synthetic, which bred a little better effort, and then an okay one on turf. So a class drop, I think, is fairly logical, and you could expect this one to be competitive. I think has run close to this level before, and I would expect this one possibly to be competitive. If you want to use, I wouldn't talk you out of it. Last leg of the Golden Hour pick 4 is the 9th at Santa Anita. It's an optional claimer for 50,000, 3-year-olds and up, and it's run on the turf at 1.125 miles. And you do note that in the configuration it does run out of the chute, so horses on the inside have to rush up a little bit, and I don't think that's going to be too much of a problem for Birth of Cool. The one horse, great horse name, by the way. It's my favorite Miles Davis album. Must have been jazz fans. Just a side note. Trained by Reed Saldana. His barn's pretty cold this meet, 0 for 12. But he did get out and get Juan Hernandez for this one, so that's positive. The last race, this one just had too much to do. Was a little fractious at the gate, and that has been a concern in the past intermittently, so something to think about. It is a class hike, but this one's coming off a career high buyer. I just worry that may have a little bit too much to do late is really the issue more than anything else. And that makes me a little reticent with a track that's been sort of favoring early pace runners and routes. That gives me a little bit of concern. But again, coming off a career high buyer, if you think a late runner might work here with Juan Hernandez, maybe this is one you think about. Talus is in really good form, and a little worried this one can't quite seem to get the job done for the last 3. But you have to like a horse who continues to run better as the classes improve, and so that's a positive sign. The last race was a pretty good effort. Had a little bit of traffic on the rail, and but kept on well, and I think we'll third off the layoff, especially with Kent DeSormo aboard, who's had a second look with this one. I think that's those are all positives, and I think this one's a logical use. GoldenEye should be one that on the engine early. You see Peter Yerton, he just won the Shoemaker Mile with Exalted, who frankly was not really, was more of a grade 3 type, I thought, and ran a really solid race. So this barn is really hot right now, and the jockey was Tiago Pereira. So these two are teaming up again. You gotta like that. This one should be a pace factor. A little bit of a concern that in class last time this one gave it up on the lead, and it did so has done so the last 4 times in this class. So I think this one will be on the engine. The track is favoring speed a little bit. It is at it is an extra panel, and you do have to worry about that for a horse running who's a speed horse. Who's having trouble giving it up. So I'd be a little reticent with this one. There are some things to like, and at 12 to 1 you get Peter Yerton. That's a pretty good price, so maybe you want to consider this one if you think you can steal it. So I'm Told is another one running in class and has for the last couple, and has been very competitive, a couple of seconds. The thing I wonder about is this got 1 win, 6 seconds. So I wonder, in the last one, did this horse just hang, or did it have second-itis? And I'm kind of thinking the latter, just based upon the way this one finishes second more than first. So, could you use this one as a win candidate? I mean, ran an 80. I think that's the best last buyer of anybody in this race. Maybe off the pace style, an extra panel helps a little bit, but can't get past that second-itis type of scenario, so I'd be really reticent. I don't think I'd use. 34 Coupe is another one that probably will want to be up near the engine. Last race wasn't terribly good in class, faded pretty quickly. I think I probably want to wait for a rebound. Other than that, just breaking the maiden, that was the first time against winners, so I mean maybe a little bit better is expected this time. But I think I like others, and I probably want to wait. Overrule, Richard Mandel. This is one going first against winners as well. One going first against winners. He is 1 for 5, 60% in the money, second off the layoff with a maiden in the last win. Did get the career high at 4, and it was a significantly higher rate. The thing you have to worry about, of course, is that they had to drop this one in class to get that win. Prior to that, the last 3 starts weren't so hot at the maiden special weight level, so I would consider this a fairly big class jump, and I think I'd probably want to wait one. Keen to Go, it's trained by Jeff Mullins, who's a good turf trainer, as we've noted in the past, and is coming off a maiden 50, and so it's kind of the same deal as the 6, but ran at distance last time, and had to rally to get the win. Looked pretty good in doing so, and got the career high buyer. You do note they must have thought pretty well of this one to put this one in the Pasadena Stakes before it had actually broken his maiden, and it was only a 4-horse field. That's true, but did okay. So I mean, I think there's some things to like. Obviously, they had some expectations. Really, the only thing is the first against winners is the issue more than anything else. But I think this one might have a little more in the tank, and at 4 to 1, I think is a fairly decent price. You got a first-time gelding, and so that may and the drills look pretty good. So I think this is one maybe you want to use. Derecho Dandy is trained by Jod Sadler, and this is another one who, in the last race, really had too much to do. You see, was back in 10, it broke, was in the 10 hole and broke poorly, and had rallied late, but really the post position or the early lack of speed cost. This one has been sort of in that scenario a lot in the past. Interesting that the one prior at 1 1/8 in class, this one was on the lead. So I think maybe they try to go back to that. Obviously, they're trying to rate didn't work terribly well. And if this one goes back to a front-running style, I think you'd have to think this one would be would have a lot better chance to compete. So at 6 to 1, I think that's a pretty good price. And there's enough back class here to tell me that maybe you want to use this one. So here's what our ticket looks like for the Golden Hour. And again, I would check to make sure that we have the sequence correct, but it looks like it's alternating between Golden Gate and Santa Anita. Leg number 1 is the 7th at Golden Gate. We're going to use 4, 6, and 8. Number 2 is the 8th at Santa Anita. We're going to use 1, 3, and 5. The third leg is the 8th at Golden Gate. We're going to use 2, 5, and 6. And in the fourth leg, the 9th at Santa Anita, we're going to use 2, 7, and 8. So that's a $1 base for this ticket, so it's $81 total. And I think we've got fairly good shots at each of the races, and hopefully we can take it down. So that's the Golden Hour. Pretty fun sequence, and you do have to come in first bet for setting the post times up like they do, so they run consecutively pretty well. I noticed some of those other sequences with multiple tracks, like the cross country or the coast to coast. I mean, it seems like it's really frenetic during the sequence, and we hate that. So it's nice to see them run consecutively like that. That makes for a much more enjoyable and much more logistically pleasing sequence, let's put it that way. We'll have more with our Belmont Card Series, and we'll have some daily sequences coming up all the way through to the Belmont Stakes. And we'll have our Elements of Handicapping Series starting next week as we trudge towards the Belmont Stakes. And I know if you're like me, you're anxious to see that one run. I think it's going to be a good race. They've got the field pretty well set at this point. It's just a matter of the post positions. And we're thinking about trying to do maybe some more in-depth study, particularly when it comes to pedigree. because that's so important in a mile-and-a-half race. So be on the lookout for that as well. Of course, if you do like what you see here, please like and subscribe. And we do thank you for coming by as always. And I'll be talking to you in the very near future. And until then, be well.